We are back, and we have UMass President Marty Meehan here with us in the studio. The former congressman and former chancellor of UMass Lowell has had a tumultuous 3 years in the top post. Is that fair for me to say?
I don't think so. We're making a lot of progress.
Okay.
Records in terms of enrollment, in terms of research. We're up to $675 million in research, which puts us in Massachusetts third, just behind Harvard and MIT. So we're doing well as a university system, really well. All of our campuses, the 4 undergraduate campuses, are now ranked by U.S. News and World Report as Tier 1 universities. We're one of the few university systems in the country that have those rankings.
There is a lot of good news, but also let's talk about UMass Boston. The faculty there isn't happy with you. The year-long search for a new chancellor evaporated just as the board was about to vote, and now there's yet another interim leader. So the question is, explain, how did this get so bad, and are you responsible?
Well, I think, first of all, on the search, the chairman of the board appointed a search committee that was the most diverse search committee in the history of UMass, any search for chancellor. More people of color, women, there were students, there were faculty members, there were alums, and they worked hard for 8 months. They interviewed, they had 195 candidates. They interviewed a number of 10 candidates. They unanimously voted for 3 finalists, and the 3 finalists weren't anyone locally. They weren't political people. They were highly regarded educators.
But they all pulled out at the last minute.
Well, they pulled out because the faculty had expressed that they weren't, some of the faculty had expressed that they weren't interested in any of the candidates. The good side is now I've appointed a woman to be interim, and the only reason we need to appoint an interim is Barry Mills, who's been there for a year, former President Bowdoin, wants to move on and do something else. But Catherine Newman is a world-class scholar and academic. She was on the faculty at Princeton and Harvard. She had a great position at Johns Hopkins as a dean.
Well, might she be interested in the job full time?
You know, we had a meeting with the faculty just this past week, and I think the faculty's happy with her, and they asked her how long she'd stay, and she said, look, as long as I'm needed, as long as I need to, and you know, we'll see what happens. But
what lesson did you personally learn from this?
Communication. I think that universities are difficult communication-wise anyway. They're sort of like stovetops where there's not sometimes a lot of communication. I talked to the faculty last week, and they said they'd like me to be around the campus more. I may teach a course. When I was the chancellor at Lowell, I taught a course on the Congress. So I'm going to be on the campus more and communicating, I think, more effectively, and also coming up with a strategy for how we can get more state funding for the substructure and some of the parking garage and some of the issues that have been issues at UMass Boston for at least 30, 40 years. So they need an infusion of resources, and we're going to work together to make sure that happens.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Mount Ida. This is the elephant in the room, sort of. Meanwhile, campus versus campus warfare has exploded with the purchase of Mount Ida, which you compared to the Louisiana Purchase. So I guess my question is, do you really believe this will die down in Boston, and will the Boston campus eventually forgive and forget?
Well, first of all, the reason why UMass Amherst wanted that property is they own property in Waltham. They want to set up more internships, co-ops. It's not to have more students. It's not to have academic programming at the site. It's because they need to have more co-ops and internships, which they ought to have. 70% of the in-state students come from the greater Boston area. That's where 80% of the jobs are in that area. You can't have co-ops and internships and have all the students from UMass Amherst try to get internships in Springfield, and there's just not enough there. So this has been part of their strategic plan for a long time. Boston's gone through a difficult year and a half. Fact of the matter is they've had tough budget cuts. They had a $30 million deficit. So people are unhappy with the fact that difficult choices had to be made. But my job is to make difficult decisions, and sometimes they're not going to be popular, but as long as they're the right decisions. In this case, Mount Ida can be used by UMass Boston or any of the campuses that have a use for Mount Ida. But the primary use is to get UMass Amherst more integrated with business and industry in Massachusetts, and that's a good thing. There are more students from UMass Amherst that will be qualified to get jobs that will meet the workforce needs, and that's why we did it. That's why the Board of Trustees voted unanimously to do it.
But of course, UMass Boston sees this as a threat. Was there any thought whatsoever to letting them be in charge of Mount Ida or the Mount Ida campus, or giving them jurisdiction over running it?
Well, they don't have the ability to borrow, number one, that money to have Mount Ida. Number two, the interim chancellor, Barry Mills, who was aware of this, feels that his campus is in a better place. It's on the water. It's a great location. There's room there for growth. Sometimes universities engage in real estate transactions that are really good for the university. And let me give you an example. The Board of Trustees wanted to buy Bayside a few years ago. Bayside has the opportunity to create for Boston a new nursing building, more housing, and $150 to $200 million in revenue. Bayside could be the answer to all of UMass Boston's financial issues. So being smart about real estate is something that smart universities do.
How do you feel about Mayor Marty Walsh saying he wants to take over UMass Boston?
If he wants to take the debt, he can take it over. But the reality is there's no evidence that municipalities are effective at running universities. UMass Boston is now a nationally ranked university. They're moving up in the rankings, world-class faculty. I don't think the mayor would take over UMass Boston if he knew what the debt was on it. But look, the good side is enrollment at UMass Boston at this point, down payments, up 28 to 30%. If freshman enrollment goes up by 30%, then that's going to solve a lot of their financial problems. We got housing at Boston. Boston was looking at housing for 50 years. And I advocated for them when we got housing. The housing is sold out. There's a waiting list for the new housing. The construction is subsiding on the campus. Of all the 5 UMass campuses, the campus with the most upside is UMass Boston. It's a great location. They've got a fabulous faculty, and they're headed in the right direction. They just need a sound fiscal policies to get them moving forward.
And how are they going to get that sound fiscal policy?
By growing enrollment, by growing master's degrees. That's where UMass gets a small subsidy from the state that allows us to offer about a 20% subsidy, allows us to offer tuition and fees at about half, sometimes a third of private institutions. To the extent that UMass Boston grows enrollment and has good fiscal policies, they're going to be very healthy. All 4 other campuses at UMass are all running surpluses. So I think that UMass Boston has turned the corner, and I think its best years are ahead of it.
But right now, what's the current deficit?
It's about $6 million, right? 5 or 6
well,
million?
We think that we're going to end this fiscal year. We could end with a very small deficit or a surplus. Next year, we're projecting a surplus. If they increase enrollment by 25 to 30%, freshman enrollment, they're not going to have a deficit next year.
UMass Boston traditionally has always sort of counted on the state to bail them out if they ran over. But with all the controversies that have been played out, both publicly as well as privately, are you having trouble convincing Beacon Hill to cough up more money? And have you sort of damaged that relationship?
The state doesn't pay deficits. When universities run deficits, it has to come from whatever the reserves are.
But
and when universities exhaust their reserves, they end up like Mount Ida. They go out of business. And the fact of the matter is, if you look at demographics of people graduating from high school in Massachusetts and New England, demographics show that more and more private universities and even some publics in Massachusetts may have to close over the next 5 to 7 years. Enrollment is the key to the financial viability.
So you're not looking to Beacon Hill for any help at all?
Well, oh yes, we are. We would like Beacon Hill to take care of the substructure. And you think your relationship today
as good as it always was?
On Beacon Hill, it's certainly a great relationship with the Speaker, great relationship with the Governor. The Governor provided $78 million of investment for the substructure. We're going to ask them to do a little more. We're also going to ask them if they can do something with our parking garage, where we have debt on the parking garage. It isn't the fault of the Boston campus, but rather the fault of 2 state senators went to jail in shoddy construction at UMass Boston.
For those of us old enough to remember that. We're going to continue this conversation in just a few minutes. We're going to take a break.